What is going on, Ravens flock, and welcome back here to another episode of the Ravens Way podcast. Joining me, as always, is Voss. Voss, how we doing? How are we doing on this April Thursday evening?
Doing pretty well. You're enjoying the opening of the Orioles season here. Get a lot of feedback. I'm sorry, it's echoing in my ear. But yeah, we had a pretty big move to the roster depth chart today with the reacquisition reunion with Kyle Van Noy on a 2-year, $9 up to $10 million contract. So good to see Eric DaCosta plug in that hole before the draft so that he can concentrate his efforts towards the other positional needs.
Yeah, I agree. Good, value signing. Certainly came in just a smidge lower than I thought in terms of APY. And I mean, $5.5 million in the first year is a pretty good number for him. And I assume that second year is almost like an option year where they can get out of it pretty easily. So, does it move the needle a lot? No. Do the Ravens still probably need another edge rusher? Yeah. And hopefully, if Jason joins us, we can get into it a little bit in the draft talk. But I think at this point, a fourth round edge rusher really isn't moving the needle that much. In terms of, you already have Tavius, you already have Ojabo, and you have Malik Ham. So you have a lot of young guys on the roster. I do think that if they do add somebody else in the edge room, that it probably should be a vet. At least in my opinion, or if there's a best player available scenario in the earlier rounds that they like, you can entertain that as well.
Yeah, I think I'll take the opposite side of the coin there. I think this precludes a BPA outside linebacker pick early on. As you said, they have a lot of young guys. Let's also not forget about Malik Harrison, who transitioned to a outside linebacker role last season, and I expect him to continue there. They have technically they have a 3 deep if you want to count Malik Ham. Are they superstars? Are they Jadeveon Clowney, top 5 pass rush win rate? No. Odafe could get there. You're probably going to expect a little regression from Van Noy. You're going to expect a little improvement from Owe. You're going to expect a little improvement, or hopefully a lot of improvement from Ojabo, a little improvement from Robinson, probably consistent play from Harrison, and you're going to be taking on a little bit of water at outside linebacker compared to where you were last year. These are the choices that they make. What position should we bolster? What position should we let degrade or regress a little bit? This is the course they've taken. I think it's okay as long as they compensate for the potential regression on defense with a more potent offense.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I would also add that they did pay Justin Madubuike a lot of money to be a pass rusher, and that is an edge in particular. But, pass rush on the defensive front can come all in all forms. So I would agree with you. On the flip side of that, a potent offense can make up for I guess you would say, more towards average pass defense. And the way the Ravens pass defense looks now, it could end up being like that. A lot of health questions and, to your point, a lot of depth questions. But, like I said before, I think that another vet add to the room would be beneficial. Maybe Carl Lawson, you want to kick the tires on that and see if you can squeeze the juice out of him. I think that would be a worthwhile add. And then, Matthew Judon trade has been floated out there. And
my guy.
Yeah, I'll probably pound that table for a while. I don't think it'll happen. I think I read somewhere there was it in order to trade for him, which is pretty affordable. But yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm with you as far as maybe wait until August and see if there's is Bud Dupree still kicking around. I'd like to get more of a power profile, bull rush type of Clowney in the mode of a Clowney, a violent disruptor, wrecker, that kind of guy. I think Dupree kind of fits that probably better than some of the other options. So you could add more there. At the end of the day, they're probably only going to roster 5 on the final 53. So, you know, the biggest thing I think is it solidifies the room with a veteran presence. You kind of backstop against, putting out, who were those guys they were rolling out there the first couple weeks of the 22 season before they brought in JPP back or brought in JPP. It was, basically UDFA types. So it prevents that from happening, and it allows DaCosta to focus on the biggest draft needs. And let's transition to the draft. As you see it now, after the KVN reunion, how would you tier them? I think there's probably 2 or 3 tiers of needs.
I would probably put offensive tackle and honestly, I'd probably put offensive tackle in its own tier by itself in tier 1. I think by far, at least in my opinion, that one with the Ronnie Stanley restructure and his contract being shortened to the end of this year, and as well as Daniel Falele and Makari being your potential right tackles. I think offensive tackle is by far and away the biggest need on this team. And then I would say in tier 2, probably wide receiver and corner, with probably a slight, and I really am not a believer in the guy who wears 7 on this football team, but probably a slight edge to wide receiver just because of the way I feel about him. But, definitely need another outside starting corner type player. Kind of hard to find those in the draft, especially outside of the top 2 rounds. Guys who can come in and step in right away. Sometimes you need those guys to get their feet under them. And a lot of the prospects in the later rounds, some of these bigger physical outside corners, Cam Hart, Kyrie Jackson, those guys probably need a little bit of time to get their feet under them. And so, you start looking into the second round and you have some guys like Max Melton, Andrew Phillips, some guys that can come in right away, in my opinion, and start. But it's a way of that, and also wanting to take the offense over the top and having another vertical receiver come in here. And it's tough, man, because you look at that second crop of receivers outside of the main 6, I would say. And, in that second round range, you got Franklin. You have Tez Walker, if you want to put his name in there, somewhere in the late second, early third. You have Polk as well, who can be a vertical X receiver and be a physical contested catch guy, as well as working at other parts of the field. He can work as a Z, he can work in the slot. And you have Javon Baker, another X prototype. And then you have some of these, smaller guys like Malik Washington and Malachi Corley. And I just think that at least, weighing out those second tier of needs, it certainly seems like, in my opinion, you can probably find a better corner in the third round than you could a receiver in the second. But, positions get pushed up the board. Positions get pushed up the board always. And I guess the last tier is, it would probably be at the top of it is edge. But of course, with what I said earlier, I don't think a 4th round pick really moves it that much. But safety, guard. Ideally, you get the tackle that can also slide inside the guard in case everything goes well. Or you can also throw out there, running back 3. But it's UDFA money. I just really think that they should really double dip at tackle in those first 4 rounds. I think there should be 2 of them taken, just because if you can get one that can move inside and one that can play tackle and stick there, and then you can get the other one who can develop for a little bit and hopefully be a starter next year, the year after, and draft a good athlete, good functional athlete, not a big plotter like Falele. I think that would be in their best interest.
Fair enough. To your point on corners, very astute point as far as corners taking time to develop a little bit, get their feet underneath them. That even applies to first round corners in the Ravens' history. Jimmy Smith was a backup for his first season until they needed him to lock down Crabtree in the end zone Marlon Humphrey was not a full-time starter when he was first drafted either. It is a tough position to play. I'm going to go with 3 positions in my first tier. I do not believe that tackle is far and away a more pressing need than receiver. I don't. I don't think that Rashad Bateman performed necessarily better than Falele did in their opportunities last season. And cornerback as well. To me, going into a season with 2 perimeter corners and Jalen Armour-Davis as your third perimeter outside cornerback would be a recipe for disaster. You can sign all the slot corners you want, but that doesn't help your problem of depth on the boundary. Marlon has been hurt. Stevens is entering a contract year. So that's a tier 1 need. I'll agree that tackle is a tier 1 need, although I am probably a little more bullish on Falele than you are. I think McCary's serviceable as well. The fact that they cut Moses or traded Moses, and redid Ronnie's deal so that he's a UFA after this year presses it up. But if they kept everybody, I would have said probably offensive tackle was a tier 2 need. So receiver, you need 4 receivers. The 4th receiver gets a lot of snaps every single year. That's essentially almost a starting position. So I would say those are the top 3. I will push outside linebacker down with the Kyle Van Noy reunion. And I do think the safety is a very underrated need among the fan base. You only have 2 safeties on the roster right now. Ardarius Washington is not a safety. He's a slot corner. You can probably get some guys cheap. You can get a vet cheap. You can get you could probably draft somebody in the late rounds, but you need at least 2 more. And ideally, you want somebody that's pretty proficient so that Kyle Hamilton can go back to that big nickel role where he was so effective. If you're losing Clowney off the edge and you're losing the ability to put Hamilton off the edge, where does that leave your pass rush? Matabike, I can't really imagine him going too much further up. What we scouted him last year was probably one of the best years you're ever going to get out of him. And a lot of that was predicated on the others, especially Clowney, providing him those cleanup opportunities. So that's where I am. Offensive guard, I'm not too worried about. I think, between Josh Jones, who they just picked up from the Cardinals, and Voorhees and Cleveland and Salah, I think they could piece that together. Running back, I'm not worried about at all. In fact, I don't want to draft a running back because that'll entice them to carry 4 running backs on the 53 when Keaton Mitchell returns. I'd much rather go with a cheap Jag. You pay Derrick Henry all that money, make him earn it.
Yeah, that's fair. I just think with offensive tackle, it's maybe, ideally, like I said, you get somebody that can slide inside if all things go well. But I think our difference is in Falele, because I don't know, man. I don't know if he can reach, not even run blocking, but in pass blocking. I don't think he can get far enough in his set consistently to be able to pass protect for a full football game and be able to do it without being a liability. And Cleveland, for what Cleveland's shown, he's shown to be a good pass protector. And I guess him next to Linderbaum will be fine, and those two can hopefully prop each other up as pass protectors. We'll see with Voorhees and whoever, the guy we signed, Josh Jones, as well. See if they can hold down left guard. Seems like Josh Jones is a solid pass protector from what I've looked at. And then Voorhees was a good pass protector at USC. But I don't think I'll ever say that there's going wrong with having better offensive linemen on the field. And I certainly think right now, as things stand, that group can definitely use a lot of help.
To Jim 20, can you put that up, Yuri?
Yeah.
So good point, Jim. If you want to help Lamar, you need to improve what's in front of him and around him. Completely agree. I love Lamar. I'm a Lamar stan. Lamar's not as good as Mahomes. So if you want Lamar to go toe-to-toe with Mahomes and beat Mahomes, give him better receivers than Mahomes had. Give him better offensive line. You know what Lamar doesn't need to be Mahomes is a better running back because Lamar naturally boosts the running game. But that's what under the bridge at this point. To me, I'm always going to give the Ravens the benefit of the doubt at the positions that they have proven that they can find scrap heap guys, cheap guys, UDFA guys, and develop them. And those are the value positions. And it's just true. People don't want to hear it, but it is true. Running back, linebacker, nose tackle, offensive guard, fullback. Those are the 5 positions, and probably strong safety will be the 6th. Pure strong safety, box safety. Those are the positions not to invest in, not to spend money on, not to spend early picks on, because those are the positions that they can find cheap, and that allows them more money and more resources and more cap space and more draft picks to put into the positions where they have trouble or there is a scarcity of supply. So, Jim says, my way of saying need to draft offensive players earlier rather than later. Completely agree. That's kind of how we opened here. I think we're both expecting the defense to take a little bit of a step back. And the best way to compensate for that is investing in the offense. The best run defense is a potent offense. Make those teams chase points. So it looks like the Ravens are they don't want to close out the game with pass defense. They want to close it out with Derrick Henry, apparently. That's the way it seems to be going, I guess, which there's some merit to that. But they need more receiver, I think, for those negative game scripts in the postseason that are bound to come that have knocked them out of the playoffs in all 4 of Lamar's playoff games.
Yeah, I would agree. And to Jim's point, I would. I'm a little more aggressive, probably than Voss in terms of how I would want those first 4 picks to go. I think I would want 3 out of the 4 to go to pass offense. The best, either vertical wide receiver threats or best, pass protecting linemen. I think that that would certainly bode well if they want to go to the postseason again and throw the football 40 times. You need better pass protectors and you need better vertical threats that prevent teams from stacking the box. So.
Exactly.
It's just I know best player available, but I think there's at least a 30 because I think
here's the problem. The best player available is going to be a devalued position where they're already loaded at, just like it was last year in the 3rd round, where they spent the 2nd round pick and $20 million on Roquan and already had a 1st round linebacker, and guess who fell to them? Trenton Simpson. You know why? Because the other teams don't value those positions, and that's who falls to you with BPA. And if you go BPA all the time, you're going to end up with a team full of running backs and linebackers and guards and nose tackles, and you're not going to have the players at the positions that matter the most in high leverage situations.
For sure. So, I guess to get into positional favorites and realistic players at 30 for.
Let's start with OT. Let's start with OT because I know you keyed that up as your first one.
Yeah, I would say. Tackle. Yeah, I would say Kingsley Sumatra is probably, as things stand right now, the likely pick of the pick of the offensive tackles that'll be there. I like his versatility. He can play left and right. He's also played guard, and having that versatility to be able to flip sides and kind of spot you a little bit, kind of like Makari does. I think there's value in that. I also think he's a very dominant run blocker. Could use a little bit of help in terms of technique work with the pass protection, but it still is a solid pass protector. It's not like he's a liability out there. So would certainly be for him at 30 if depending on the board falls, obviously. And then the other offensive tackles you have Guyton. Guyton probably the best fit for a wide zone offense.
Raw.
Yeah, very very raw. And I do have questions about Guyton. Guyton's like to me, he's like Morgan Moses. He's like Morgan Moses. And so you cut Morgan Moses, you don't draft his replacement to be exactly like him, at least in my eyes. So then looking at others, you have Mims who could potentially fall. Another raw, very, very raw guy, has not played a lot of college snaps.
I'd be
I just
surprised if I'd be surprised if the Ravens were into Guyton or Mims just based off their track record. They like offensive linemen with a lot of collegiate snaps under the belt. That's been their MO for a long time.
for sure. And the thing is with Mims is like you keep drafting these guys in the back end of the first that are these late developers like Queen and like always going to be. And by the time comes around, you've already probably
Half of their
lost.
contract.
Yeah, you've already lost patience with them, and you probably traded for somebody or signed somebody at the at one of the other offensive tackle spots that are your cornerstone contract. You just can't pay everybody. So even though the upside is intriguing with Mims, I wouldn't be for drafting a long developing guy. And then you have
All
a
right, well
couple
let me
tweeners. Go ahead.
hold on real quick. Let me pick your brain a little bit. Out of Guyton, Mims, well, obviously Kingsley is a left tackle. Do you think Guyton or Mims or Latham, if he slides, which I don't think's out of the question, he didn't test at all, and he kind of to me is Orlando Brown Jr. 2.0, which the Ravens got in the third round and didn't and traded away. Do you think any of them could play left tackle? Besides Kingsley, Guyton, Latham, or Mims?
No, I don't think so.
Jordan Morgan. That's the real. That's the one to me. And I've been working on a new business venture, so I haven't had a ton of time to dig into tape, but I did spend some time digging into him. Good feet, really good reset in the middle of the reps with his hands. Short arms show. He lets too many guys into his body, and I think that's really going to throw him off at the next level. I think he's a pure guard. I don't think he has tackle ability at the next level personally.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think that to your point, he's not a power guy, and he lets people get into his chest because of the arm length. And it's when you have to have one or the other. You have to be either a powerful guy and be able to fend off those long arm defensive linemen that will really bully you. And when you can't really do either. It's tough to project those guys at tackle. So
who else you want to touch on the tackle here? Patrick Paul, Fisher from Notre Dame, Kieran from Yale. Any of these guys? What kind of range and what's your quick thumbnail scouting report for each?
So with Kieran, I have him. I think in my top 40. Probably going to go up more as time goes on. 36-inch arms, 6'5". And sure, going to Yale isn't going to an SEC or a Power 5 school, but it is. It did show up on tape. He was dominating people. It wasn't like he went to Yale and he was getting, letting people get into his chest. He very rarely let people get into his chest. He has good hand placement. Sometimes he can get a little high in his sets, but I think that's something that you can easily fix. And
yeah,
one of probably the cleanest pass protectors in this class. I would say top 4 among the tackles, just pure clean pass protector. And that's not to say he's a bad run blocker either, because he's a very strong and powerful dude, and he did bully people. And to Jim's question here, would I take him at 30? Probably not. But would I trade up from 62 for him? Yeah, I definitely would. If you can somehow make that feasible. He is a very, very unique prospect just because of the arm length and the power combo. I feel like those are 2 things that I always see that, at least more times often than not, translate to the next level. And he has it. So.
And you'd assume that he has a pretty good head on his shoulders too, Ivy League,
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. So, and then the other tackles, Blake Fisher, I think he could I think he could be a starting right tackle sooner rather than later. I like the athlete. I like the fact that when he gets in the pass pro, he's usually very deep in his set. and very rarely will get beat around the arc. And once again, another thing I feel like that translates is this offensive tackles can get deeper into their set and be able to,
Yeah.
wash these guys out.
Notre Dame, I think, is probably the offensive line factory out of all the college. And I've heard some opine that he's actually Fisher could be a very good left tackle. He was just blocked by Alt, but he actually has the feet for it more than some of these other guys.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. I could definitely see that as well. Thinking of the other people here, Patrick Paul. I think I had him. I think he's more of the third round project type of tackle. I don't think he has the chops to start right away. Good run blocker, probably can give you a safe floor there, but in terms of being a pass protector, I'm not sure right away.
There's a lot of technique work.
Yeah, that's a guy you would rely on right away.
I've seen some cut-ups and they were rough.
Yeah. One more guy, and I think probably right tackle only, but certain day one starter is Roger Rosegarten from Washington. In a pass heavy offense, him and Fasanu were just anchors on both sides, and he has the reps, which is I think that's very important to be in an offense. It's a pass heavy offense. Get those reps in. I think those are very important, and for him to be such a refined pass protector. Not only that, but the way that he uses his hand placement to stave off guys and use leverage. I think that's one of his best traits. So outside of that, going in the deep into the bag, fourth round developmental guys, you have Christian Jones as well. Another big school, big offense. Obviously playing at Texas. Just a developmental guy. I don't think he'll be a guy that can start day one. And then you also have Javon Foster as well, who ironically reminds me of Falele, but he's a lot more athletic than Falele. And I think, once again in the fourth round, very rarely do you find your fourth round offensive tackle starting right away. But I think
it happens well. Zach Tom for Green Bay.
Yeah, and I wanted Zach Tom as well. I wanted Zach Tom over Falele, but I can't always get what I want. So yeah, I like Foster as well. If they want to throw a dart there and bet on the physical upside that he has, I wouldn't be against that at all.
So just from a numbers perspective, I think there is a way to fit two more tackles, or at least a pure tackle and a tackle guard combo onto the 53. Sam Mustipher departed today. I forget who you latched on with, but you lost your backup center. If you're going to carry 10 linemen, you can have 5 Broncos. Okay, 5 tackles, and then you can have 5 IOL. I think you can make that work. So I'm not opposed to that, but I think that's a pretty good snapshot of the offensive tackle class, Yuri. Let's transition to guard. I personally don't think guard is a pressing need, but just pose this question: who's your favorite mid-round sleeper or mid-round target? Positional favorite.
I think a positional favorite, and it's hard to get a read on them because of the mock drafts and what people are saying seem like two very vastly different things. But Cooper Bebe would certainly be my positional favorite. Pass protecting chops is there, run blocking chops are there. Can play in gap or zone. Good enough athlete and
good athlete.
And if he's there in the fourth round. I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with somebody who can start, in my opinion, day one. I think he would take either Cleveland or Voorhees' job and run with it. I have him highly more graded than those two guys in their respective draft classes. So, of course, my top 50 is not the same as the NFL's top 50, and he could go in the top 50, or you could be in there in the fourth. So,
I think it seems that there's more variance on guards and the kind of variation or where could they go. I think guards might be the most volatile position of one of the most volatile positions of the entire draft. When you look at it year after year, who was that guy New England reached up for in the first round that had a third-round grade a couple years ago? Cole Strange, I think. Yeah, so it's definitely a volatile position. And then you see the money that these guards are getting paid. Robert Hunt getting a $100 million contract. It's almost to the point now where the entire offensive line is just a premium position group, the whole line. So, you know what? I used to be against taking a guard or a center in the first. Nowadays, I'm okay with it, personally. If they really get a stud, I'm okay with it. I can live with it. Just like I've said several times, get a good O-line, quarterback, and secondary, and you can win a lot of games having strong position groups there. Let's transition off the O-line, unless you had another guard you wanted to highlight.
Trying to get deep in my bag. Christian Haynes as well is another good one. I think he's another day one starter type of guy. He kind of reminds me. It's weird because, of course, they went to the same school, but because he does remind me of like the guard version of like Travis Jones, like wins with low center of gravity and understands leverage. I think Christian Haynes is another good one. And I don't think there's anything wrong with the Punk. I don't think there's anything wrong. I don't think there's anything wrong with what's going on, Garnett. I don't think there's anything wrong with there you go, Pooney. I don't think there's anything wrong with grabbing a starting offensive lineman unless you already have 2 or 3 solidified starters there. And Cleveland, I'll spot them one. I have no problem spotting them one internal replacement, but I think two is a stretch.
Fair enough.
There's nothing wrong with adding more fuel to the fire and getting those guys more competition.
Well, and Cleveland's coming up on a contract year. Saleh, Saleh did not look like an NFL caliber player in the preseason last year. So there's no you don't have to. You're not married. You're not married to the. You're not married to the capital, and thank God they finally started doing that with the Caillou Blue Kellys and the Bennett Nations, and not just holding on to everybody with the sunk cost fallacy of this is a draft pick, we have to keep them. Let's keep the 53 best guys we can keep. Let's transition to wide receiver. There's a little bit of debate in the Ravens flock as far as what is Nelson Agholor. I consider him wide receiver 4. He was signed as a wide receiver 4. He played as a wide receiver 4, and just because he caught a tip ball and took it the distance and got another long touchdown on a busted coverage where he leaked out of the backfield late, doesn't mean that he's now a bona fide wide receiver 3 that gives them all the insurance they need there behind Zay Flowers and Rashad Bateman. I'm okay projecting Bateman to take a leap to wide receiver 2. I'm still not there on Agholor. He's been an every other year kind of guy. One year he's dropping babies out the window and when there's a fire in Philly, and the next year he's, running safeties off so Flowers can, get a crucial touchdown in the fourth quarter on primetime. All that said, the surplus value, if you hit on a receiver, is immense. Not only do you not have to pick up Bateman's 5th-year option, but you now have a cost control player for 4 years who's a potential stud. You see this money that Stephon Diggs and some of these guys are making. To me, that's especially as a rotational position, it makes a whole world of sense to take a wide receiver early every year and never pay any of them the second contract. That's kind of how I would approach it. We have Jason here. What's going on there, Yuri? Oh, Jason.
He's messing with his chain. I'll make sure he's good.
Finally. There he is.
Good, man. Hey.
Football's family, brother. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Turned off the lights, so you're going to have to deal with the old man wrinkles.
No, you look good.
I was – you know what? We turn this on.
What's your evening skincare regimen, Jason?
I have a general lotion that I just started to use. There we go. That I just started to use, and I think it's working. My wife says it doesn't improve the way you look, but it'll help you from not looking much worse very fast. So I'm going to trust her on that.
Little true serum. All right, well, let's just circle back here to Jason since we have him now on O-line before we move on to wideout. We're just trying to go through the draft. Offensive tackle, you want to maybe just give us your positional favorite and who you kind of be happy with there at 30 at OT before we go on to receiver.
Well, I would just like to say at 30, I don't care if it's 30 or if it's 27 or if they trade back and it's 33. Just make sure you get a tackle that you believe in that could be able to start this year, but definitely by next year will be a strong starter for you. That's my number one concern is the offensive line. I feel like the receiver group, okay, fine. Yeah, you could use a piece there. You can pick some spots like corner on defense. We're going to need a safety probably. But overall philosophy, if you protect Lamar, we're going to be all right. That's how I feel. It's if you get your quarterback banged up, even if you get your quarterback worn out and he's running around too much during the game, that's not going to help you win games. So go offensive line in the first, no matter who it is, whether it's Jordan Morgan, whether Tyler Guyton starts to slip a little bit, or the medicals check out for Amarius Mims, whoever that the Ravens believe in. I just want to see, like, I'm less concerned about who it is, and then I'm more concerned about let's get a tackle.
I'll push back on that a little. I think there are some that I would take. Certainly, Jordan Morgan. I see some flaws in his game, and if the right receiver or corner is there, I would pull the trigger on either of those guys over Morgan. But positional favorite or any just how do you kind of stack these guys up? Who you covet right now?
Yeah, no problem.
Kingsley Stu is a hot button guy.
Kingsley, I think, is a good option if you want a right tackle. And that's kind of where I stand on him. And I think he would work in the Ravens scheme because if you want to burn the edge against the Ravens, and that's where Kingsley is most vulnerable, is just to the speed rushers. If you want to go ahead and fly by Lamar, go for it, bro. Like, he will roll out and make something happen. So if that's your, the typical right tackles usually struggle with speed rushers. They're your bigger guys. Kingsley, to me, Suamataia, plus run blocker with some nasty to him. Do I believe in him as a pass blocker? He's definitely not a left tackle to me. I think his pass protection is okay. I think it'll get better. Coming from BYU into the pros, I think it'll get better. But as far as like, is he a plus pass blocker? I would say it's going to take him a year or two to get up to that point. Lamar makes me feel a little bit better about it. A guy like Tyler Guyton is who I would really hope falls because he's able to mirror his rushers so well. His former tight end background. I don't know if you guys see him catch that touchdown pass in the back of the end zone.
I didn't see that one. You see
All
that
right,
one?
There's a highlight on YouTube of him.
Okay.
I forget what school he transferred from, but it wasn't like the Sisters of the Poor. Like it's a decent school, and there's him.
A little tackle eligible play.
No, he was a tight end. He's a tight end.
Okay.
So
Nice.
They basically said, Tyler, you're 6'8". There's more money to be made at tackle. Your arms are long. You're going to be a tackle. So Guyton's tape, when you watch, just remember that he's only been playing tackle for 2 years. And his ability to mirror and pass rush is excellent. It's what you would expect out of an athlete who played tight end. So that's a guy that, like, if he slips to 24, 25, I might be willing to part with that third-round pick, considering that we have an earlier fourth now to get the left tackle of the future. Like, that's kind of where my head's at. I really think that we need to solidify that. So I guess maybe we differ a little bit on that, Vass, but I don't know. I'm not sure.
So, all right. So do you think you could play left tackle? And if not, who was your third left tackle? Because it's a good tackle class, but it's a right-handed tackle class for the most part.
It is. I wouldn't rule out Latham as a left tackle, and I know that's people will push back on that, but I see great feet from a big man, and I mean the way he moves is just unbelievable for his size, and then you add his length to it. But just pulling up my board here, I would say, yeah, you're right. Of course, it is right tackle heavy. Joe Ald will be gone. He's a left tackle. Fashanu will be gone. He's a right tackle. Fuaga will be gone. The guy that interests me, I think, would be Troy Fautanu. I'm not sure if people still believe in him as a left tackle. I think
we both love him.
I think
both of us really like him. Yeah.
Yeah, I believe him. Left tackle, preacher, anything. I believe.
And then what about Graham Barton? Did we talk about him?
Not yet. Cue us
Okay,
up.
so Graham Barton, I would say, is if you don't like Jordan Morgan, you probably won't like Graham Barton. Same type of player, maybe be better inside, but he's another guy that, the left tackles have the great feet and great movement skills, but don't have that length and power. And that's where I really kind of circle Tyler Guyton. And then, of course, Armarius Mims comes after Guyton to me, just because I've only seen he's got 8 starts, injury history. So you'd have to be comfortable with him to project. And I just that's too rich for me.
I never like when injury prone guys get hurt at the combine. That's not a good sign.
Right. Running the 40. So my positional favorite, you brought that up, is Blake Fisher out of Notre Dame. And I've said this on a couple, I just said this before. He is a 5-star recruit. He's a 21-year-old. He's a redshirt sophomore, so I guess he's around 2021. Stuck behind Joe Alt. Joe Alt's playing left tackle. And when I watch Blake Fisher, of course, he's like tackle number 14 on the list that I got. And I'm like, wait a minute, this guy's got great feet, way better feet than the guys that I watched before him. He's big, he's strong. So I think Blake Fisher, I don't think you play right tackle for 2 years and forget how to play left tackle. If you're a 5-star recruit, I guarantee you he played left tackle in high school. He is a guy that I've seen go in like the 3rd rounds in these drafts, and I just don't see it. If he's there, like close to our 2nd round pick, he's a guy that I would make a move for. Or if the Ravens trade back, I really like what I see from Blake Fisher out of Notre Dame.
Good stuff. Good stuff. All right, let's just transition to wide receiver, and I'm going to pose this to Yuri. The best stylistic fit / skill set to complement the room. What are you looking for? I personally, we got plenty of slots and tight ends that can play in the slot. I'm looking for a different skill set. What are you looking for?
It's tough, man. It's tough because the tall and the fast ones go early. They tend to go early, and some of the tall and slow ones will stick around a little bit. It's tough to weigh. In my mind, I'm weighing pure deep threat versus just an X. I'm weighing Polk versus Xavier Worthy. Those are like the skill sets I'm weighing. Of course, A.D. Mitchell's one. Brian Thomas is another. Brian Thomas reminds you a lot of DJ Chark, who also came out of LSU as well. So that I feel like that's where my brain's at right now, and it would. I'm not sure where I land yet. It's just because like all the tall and the fast and the vertical X type receivers go earlier because it's a rare skill set. You can find
there's a lot this year though. There's more than usual this year.
There definitely are. And looking at pick 30, I guess my positional favorite would probably be Lad McConkey out of Georgia. I think that's probably my positional favorite at the moment. Do you stick and take him at 30? Do you maybe move back a little bit?
What about the redundancy to Flowers?
I don't think there's such a thing as having too many good Zay Flowers on the field. I feel like Zay Flowers is a good football player, and having another good Zay Flowers is not a bad idea. And having another move Z as well is not a bad idea. And I feel like you can do that with Ladd. You can move him around the field, and the versatility it offers your offense, and also to your point that you always make about not wanting teams to stack the box. He is a deep threat. I mean, he runs a 4.39. I can't remember what Zay ran last year, but I think it's faster than Zay. So
he was 4.42 if I recall.
Yeah, so I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But in terms of just to answer your question, skill set, it'd be nice. It would be nice to get an X. It would be to Garnett's point, it would nice to get a big body athlete at the position. But you're gonna the one you take is not unless someone falls. The one you take is probably not going to be right away ready to be an X. They might take some time to get their feet under them.
Yeah. For me, Adonai Mitchell is a guy that he would make me go back on everything I said in the first time. Like, I mean, he's 6'2" and he's a crafty bully of a route runner, and he's 4.3 whatever fast. I mean, there's not too much that you can ask for that he doesn't do. I love the fact I love when guys are not only just big, but they can run routes. That's that like Justin Jefferson type X factor where you're 6'1", 6'2", and really know what you're doing out there. So Adonai Mitchell, I think, would be tough to pass on for a guy that projects as an average tackle. To me, he could be your number one, and man, you'd have Zay, and that would just be a great. But I would say body type, I would prefer to have a bigger receiver, and somebody who has a good feel for off schedule plays. I think that's extremely important. That's one of the things that I like about Keon Coleman. His quarterback put him in some rough situations last year. Talked to Coach DC about this last night, watching the LSU game, and talk about how many of his catches were contested. And you look at that game and watch the quarterback play, and you can kind of tell why. Like it kind of paints a bigger picture. So in all, though, I would just say I agree with Yuri. There is no such thing as having, if Lad McConkey is the best player on the board, I say there's no such thing as like, oh, we got too many guys with Zay Flowers' skill set. Like it's a game of space and getting open. And I think that the X receiver has kind of, especially with Lamar as your quarterback, has kind of faded a little bit. Like we're not getting a ton of press coverage.
That's
pretty much can line these guys up anywhere. I mean, and they're going to be facing coverage that's 5-7 yards off because teams are still terrified to turn their back on Lamar Jackson. So I don't know. I look at the second round. I would like Leggett if he slips. Jalen Polk is interesting to me because I love his hands and his routes take forever to develop. But again, a bigger body that can catch the ball and can get deep on you, despite the fact that he doesn't have great speed. So I think there's some guys in the second round I'd be happy with as well.
Yeah, it's a good core. Every year it seems that there's the 7-on effect is just proliferating. And I was telling you, I think right before you jumped on, take a receiver in the top 65, 75 every year, and don't sign any, and just and use that as your efficiency to save cap space to address other positions. On that note, they lost 2 receivers in Duvernay and Beckham, so technically you need to fill 2 receivers. Favorite mid to late round sleeper receiver for each of you guys. Let's go to Yuri first on this one also.
It depends what kind of skill set they get with the first one. To Jason's point, if they get AD Mitchell, and I loved AD Mitchell, I still do, but in my eyes, he's long gone. I feel like that dream went with his 4.33 and 9.99 relative athletic score at the combine. I was like, all right. But sometimes you've seen guys fall for other reasons. So getting the later rounds, Malik Washington out of Virginia, I think he's another diverse skill set. He can, plus as a return man, if you want to push, if you really want to replace Duvernay, I think he can be a good punt and or kick returner. And also as a slot.
New kickoff rules too, by the way.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that he is not to use the cliche, but he is a Swiss Army knife. I think you could probably if your goal is to use Zay Flowers more downfield and less underneath, and use Zay Flowers more as a deep threat, I think you can have Malik Washington step into that role of getting the jet motions and we're using somebody underneath work. And then I thought I'd throw one more out here. Is mid to late rounds. It's tough. I do have questions about the route running, but in terms of just like a pure vertical threat would be Tez Walker out of UNC. And of course, whatever UNC bias. I'll admit he's not the finest route runner. He does struggle against press coverage. But to Jason's point he made earlier, so many teams are scared to press the Ravens anymore because of turning the back to Lamar. And what does Tez Walker do really well at UNC? He eats up a lot of zone coverage with his 4.3 speed. And he knows how to work the deep ball. He knows how to track the deep ball. He knows how to adjust his body in midair. He has really good body control. And he does have a quote-unquote hands problem, but he does make some really tough catches as well. If you watch the Georgia Tech game in double, two-man traffic and lays out for it and was not an easy catch with the defender. I mean, the safety looked like he was about to take his head off, and there's a mental aspect of the game. So another guy I would like. Like I said, I do think he has some faults, but that's why he's not a first round guy.
Yeah, I definitely have a favorite, and we might be able to get him in the 4th or 5th round. I'm not sure if testing is going to push him up further. I don't see him on anybody's radar, and that's Bub Means out of Pittsburgh. Stood out to me at the combine. I was writing down the measurements before they went when the official measurements came out. I'm like, wait a minute, who's this guy? I got him. He's number 30 on this list I got of like wide receivers to watch. So it took me forever. I hadn't even gotten to him to watch him other than just the one first watch. 6'1", 212, runs a 4.43. Okay. He played primarily X at Pittsburgh, and he's really, really smooth. As far as a route runner, you wouldn't consider him a route runner as far as his stop, start, change of direction, but he had a lot of success on these, like the over routes, the layered throws that Lamar makes over level 2, in front of level 3, big body, willing to take a hit, dig routes, stuff like that. So he can line up at X and work over the middle. He's not just one of these guys that can run slant routes and go routes and gimmick stuff, and that's all you get from him. Like he's a big physical guy, and he looked really, really, really smooth. Like I said, was number 30 receiver on my list, and I don't know where he is, but anytime I look at a top 100 list, or he's never on there. So that's a guy, runs a 4.43, again, 6'1", 212, arms are over 33 inches. I mean, the guy looked really smooth in the combine drills as far as like your gauntlet and just all the ball tracking. I was really impressed with his ball tracking in the games that I watched. I remember the West Virginia game. What do they call that? The backyard brawl, Pitt, West Virginia. Yeah, dude, he was amped up, and you could tell he is their leader, tracking the ball downfield. Excellent, I think, football player who has the physical skills to actually translate.
Awesome. Great stuff. How sweet would it be if the Ravens hit on a late round receiver? I don't think they have since Brandon Stokely and Jermaine Lewis. Seriously, I don't think they have. So that would be great. Let's transition to the other side of the ball because we're getting up on an hour here. And we didn't quite catch this off the top, Jason, but Yuri and I both have corner in either the tier 1 or tier 2 of needs entering the draft, with really only 2 outside perimeter corners. Besides, ahead of Armour Davis, and Stevens entering a contract year, and Marlon starting to put on some miles on his legs. Again, what skill set should they be looking for? And if you could cue us up with maybe one option the first couple rounds, first 2-3 rounds.
Well, I think that this corner class is more deep than it is quality. I think there's more quantity than quality. And Voss, you're going to love that, your guy, Renardo Green, is my positional favorite. I just love him because he's a man corner and he can stick with just about any type of receiver. That LSU game is ingrained in my head, watching him battle with Neighbors and Brian Thomas, and looking like he belonged and winning a lot of those reps. So Renardo Green, I have him kind of ridiculously high on my list compared to others. I think he's in the 60s. It's going to double check there. I have him at number 63 on my board. So that's not quarterbacks. So you're talking about if he's available at round 3, I would love to draft Renardo Green. But
he's catching steam. He's catching steam nationally the last couple of weeks. He is.
Yeah. He's my positional favorite. And now I'm saying now I might have to switch my positional favorite to Yuri's guy, Max Melton, because I have him also very high compared to where other people are. So, on this cornerback class overall, guys, I would say I was a little bit underwhelmed considering the hype for it. Like there's guys that are big and have a great body type and they run a 4.5. And then there's fast guys who, when you watch them play, somehow they get lost at the stem all the time and they're playing catch up ball. So I don't really see good corners are hard to find. That's why you have to draft them in the first round. But with this class in particular, I think you get a lot of they're good at 2 things, but they have a fatal flaw. So if we were going to take a chance, I would say give me an off coverage zone corner type guy, like maybe a Cam Hart or something like that, who, all right, yeah, he runs a 4.5, but he has good eyes and this, that, and the other thing. So Renardo Green, I love. Max Melton, I love. I would consider taking those guys in the first 2 days. But other than that, I would say instead of going for this fast guy who doesn't know how to play corner, since we're playing so much zone, give me a guy with good size and good ball skills and see if he can go get you some.
For sure. Yeah, I would agree with the sentiment that it is quantity over quality. I thought Kool-Aid McKinstry would be a lot better of an athlete than he is, and then he ran a 4.5.
That was my question. Would either of you guys take him at 30? That was my follow-up.
You know what? Before Yuri goes in, they found a Jones fracture at the combine. So I haven't seen anybody mention this, and we were talking about a guy who was, and he should be ready for training camp was my other notes. So that's straight from Daniel Jeremiah on combine coverage. So they found a Jones fracture in his foot that he played through this season. So coming into the season as the number 1 corner, coming out of the season as the second best corner on his team, maybe it's because his foot was fractured. Maybe that's why he didn't look so explosive. So I kind of put him back on the radar for like even a sneaky round 1 pick if the Ravens aren't thinking offensive line. Like he's got his last year's tape was really, really good, worthy of the 30th pick for sure. So medicals will be important there. But yeah, Yuri, I don't know if that changes anything that you wanted to say, but I don't see people bring that up a lot that he's played through the Jones fracture.
Yeah, I was, to be honest, I was unaware of that. I did not see that come across my feed or anything. I still wouldn't. I am a little set on my heart's set on an offensive player at 30, no matter what. Or if we move back, still it would be an offensive player. I think my heart's set there. But yeah, to Jason's point, there are some nice skill sets though. Once you get down the board, I think Max Melton has been my favorite for like 3 months. But I'm right now. I'm currently weighing. I have him and Andrew Phillips both graded equally. Andrew Phillips out of Kentucky. Andrew Phillips reminds me a lot of Ronald Darby. Good athlete, good instincts in zone. Maybe not the greatest ball skills, but I feel like I trust the athlete in him, and I think I have them both like 53rd and 54th. So I'm really high on both of them. I don't think you can go wrong with either at pick 93. I'm with Jason as well. Renardo Green would be another good pick, and Cam Hart as well. You have the 6'3", and to Jason's point, I do trust the zone instincts with Cam Hart, and the ability to work downhill, long speed. I feel like, and we'll see how much translates from the Mike McDonald to Zach Orr, but I feel like if the system is somewhat similar, long speed isn't the biggest concern in this system. It's more about being a good zone corner, because Mike McDonald a lot of the times didn't put guys on islands. I feel like there's always help for the corners.
Well, I think that remains to be seen how Zach Orr is going to deploy him and whether there is a little bit of a change there, especially without maybe a little downgrade. Yeah, absolutely. He did. Good job. Before we move on from corner, I see you have Kyrie Jackson pretty far down your list here, Jason. You want to give us your thoughts on him? Because we were kicking him around as a day 2 guy.
Yeah, and I realized that I'm a little bit lower on him. I'd say, he is a physical corner who can press, and I think that's why people really love him. Of course, it's 6'4". You have to love his size and length, and he already knows how to use that for his advantage. I wasn't impressed with his press coverage as much. His press punch, I thought his punches weren't always accurate. His timing was off. You could see him miss with his punches. The good thing is he's strong enough to where he doesn't have to land them cleanly to be effective. Needless to say, at 6'4", the catch point is a tough ask for most wide receivers. He has big-time issues to me with stop-start, change of direction, and that probably won't improve at the NFL level due to his body type. There's just a lot of moving parts, long arms, long legs. He's also not an instinctive player, so when he loses, he really loses. I said 4.5 speed seems about right for play speed, but he could max out at safety or just a zone-only corner. So, that's my full scouting report straight from my notes. He's a guy that, honestly, Voss, I'm going to have to go back and watch more of because as I'm starting to stick my head out and look at where others have them, I see the disconnect that you picked out there. So I want to go back and see what I'm missing. But it's stop, start, change of direction.
Yes.
We're just
Stand your ground, brother.
safety
Stand your
like.
ground. I like to see divergent opinions, and that's one. I think it's a notable point there that eye-hand coordination is something that the combine doesn't necessarily measure, and that's not something that can necessarily be taught either. So I think that's a very valid point, personally. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I have him out of my top 75. I think he's he's on the fringe. I don't
One more corner, just because I love the cornerback position. I want to make you guys talk about it for 4 questions. Cooper DeJean hasn't tested yet. I like the fact that he could potentially not only be your Darby replacement, but also be your Geno Stone replacement, kind of with 2 birds with 1 stone. However, I think the pro day's next week, but a little tightness there. How about prospects of him at 30 or opinions of him at 30?
I'll go for it first, Marshall. Yuri, excuse me. I would just say that I'm with Yuri. I'm hell-bent on getting that tackle at number 30. And if not, I want a guard. And if not, I want a wide receiver. I think the defense is going to be okay at the end of the day. That's just my opinion. But the one thing I really don't like about that player, Voss, is that he pronounces his name DeJean. And it's supposed to be DeJean, like you pronounced it. Like, that's French, bro. Like, it's Cooper DeJean. In all seriousness, though, I think he's would be a really good match for this specific team with Kyle Hamilton. Him and Kyle, like you say, being able to play that off corner role, like, he just amazes me how it looks like the passes that he's intercepting and returning for touchdowns were intended for him. He's got that kind of Marcus Peters-esque instincts, man, like where he's not just intercepting, he's catching them on the run, man. Physical tackler, which is important in today's game with all these quick hitters to the boundaries. So they're going to blow up those extensions of the run game and the jet sweeps. Yeah, he's tight in hips. But maybe when Kyle's at slot, he's at safety. When Kyle's at safety, you put him on the same side at corner and you play a zone with those 2 instinctive monsters on that side, and good luck. So I love the fit. I just don't like I don't like spending that pick on anything other than somebody who can take over for Ronnie next year, or at least be an upgrade from Falele right now.
Very good. Yuri? Cooper, pass the Grey Poupon?
Yeah. Yeah. Quite literally everything Jason said. The ball skills are probably some of the best, if not the best, in the class. And instincts aren't something that everybody has, and it's not something that can be taught, especially in the game of football, I feel like. And with him, as I power through this sneeze, I feel like it's coming. I feel like with him, he kind of reminds me just a tiny bit of Jalen Ramsey, in the way he plays football, the way you see him sink. I feel like Jalen Ramsey is not the most fluid with his hips, but he's fluid enough. And I feel like with DeJean, he's not the most fluid, but he's fluid enough. And that, I mean, still to Jason's
That's a good comp. That's a good comp when you say it, because Ramsey was a starting safety on FSU's championship team, and then he played star nickel before he got drafted. And some thought he was going to be a safety at the pro level. So that's actually a very good cross-cultural comp. I like that. Yeah.
So, but to Jason's point, I really am selfish for what I want at 30. And it's going to take a lot. It's going to take a certain type of player on defense to be available for 30 for me to be like, all right, go ahead, whatever.
I will say, though, on draft day, if we pick a guy that I really like on defense, that I'll be cool with it. I'll be patient at that point, because I'll be like, all right, they have to have another plan, right? Like, okay, maybe we're going to trade up in the second, or maybe I don't know, man. I start to get this sinking feeling, boss, that they like their linemen a lot more than the rest of us do. I'm starting to get that sinking feeling.
Honestly, I was making the point before you jumped on that O-line is definitely tier 1 need, but I would put wideout and corner in the same tier personally, not above O-line, but I don't know. They've gotten away with some you can have a hole in the O-line, one or two, and kind of the rising tide of Lamar can lift all boats. I don't want to be in a position where you're down to Jalen Armour-Davis playing on an island, or Tylan Wallace and Nelson Aguilar doing he's going to do a line. Okay, G. I don't think so, man. I think they test you for that kind of stuff down there. But anyway, let's transition to outside backer, and we were saying now with the Kyle Van Noy reunion that thankfully that's not a tier 1 need anymore. So I'm kind of approaching it, and as you gentlemen are too, this should be an offense-focused draft early. Let's talk about maybe a mid-round outside backer who can maybe give Tavius Robinson, Malik Harrison, maybe Malik Ham some competition there. Who are you kind of looking for? Maybe 4th round. Was it Darius Smith, a 5th round? Matthew Judon, who can be developed, small school, big body guy maybe. Who you guys have your eye on there?
Real quickly, just to Jason's point that he made, I would certainly hope that they come into this draft thinking they need at least 2 offensive linemen. Okay, I understand if you have faith in the guys you have internally, but if your message to everybody is I'm going to rebuild the offensive line, rebuilding the offensive line is not taking guys from the internal and promoting them. That's not rebuilding it. That's the same people from last year. It's just you're promoting them. And if you believed in them, they would have played at some point last year, even if there was veterans. If it was that, in my opinion, if it was that good, and when Zeitler was struggling early on, and when Stanley was out, if those guys were that good, then they would have played. So I don't know. I don't think that's the idea, at least in my eyes. If that's their idea, I'm gonna be an upset person for a very long time. At least over the summer until they show me otherwise. But anyways, to your point of edge rushers and the early day 3 crop, I think they already have the Ravens already have a lot of big bodies. At least they have Oweh, they have Tavius. I think they could really use a low center of gravity pass rush specialist. And the first one that comes to my mind is Muhammad Kamara, just a very twitchy, very amped up athlete. Sure, he's 6'1", 250, but the way he wins, the way he is constantly physically competitive every rep, I think that he adds a lot of juice and kind of like an energizer bunny almost to the defense. And I think players like that, there is a feeding aspect of players that are constantly, balls to the wall. You can feed off that. So I think that's a good one.
Top G.
Another one.
Top G energy.
Yeah, exactly. And then I think another one for me would be Xavier Thomas as well, former 5-star recruit, and another guy that I don't think with his history so far at Clemson, I don't think he's really scratched the surface of what he can be as a football player. And I do project him as a better pro than a better college player. So I don't the point I made before, Jason, before we hopped on, I don't think a 4th round edge rusher really moves the needle a lot, at least in the way that you would want it to. There's a couple nice skill sets you can bring in, but I think in my eyes, at least looking at the position again, if you could ideally, and Voss made this point, if you could ideally get like a Clowney, and get someone who's like maybe had it down for last year or were injured last year, and they're kind of like the upside piece, like the maybe they could be something, maybe they couldn't. I can sell myself on that. But I just think a fourth round guy, while there are some nice skill sets out there, I just don't know how many. I mean, that's one vet and 4 guys under the age of 24.
Real quick, Jason, before you chime in, just to your point of Kamara, notably, correct me if I'm wrong, Elvis Dumerville still holds the franchise record for most sacks in a season, and he was 5'11". So, short guys can produce in this scheme too. I agree.
Absolutely. I was surprised that Kamara measured in at 6'1", because he sure does play shorter than that, which is a compliment. I think it's a credit to his bend, and he's just kind of a rugged player, man. Like I like the way Kamara's style is. Shout out to G in the comments. I didn't have the comments on, so now I'm seeing all of them. He's getting wild out there. Love to see it, by the way. But yeah, I have a target. I think that the Van Noy signing though does change my approach at edge rusher. I'm glad we have a vet in the room because if any of the young guys do take off, we can save Van Noy a little bit, pace him towards the end of the season. But if we need Van Noy to step up, like I'm glad we have Van Noy there instead of drafting somebody else. And now we have a whole bunch of unknowns there. But my guy is Austin Booker out of Kansas. He's all arms and legs. I love that about him. I think that he has a lot of pass rush moves, but he needs improvement in all of them. You're talking about he can threaten the outside. Excuse me there, guys. I've been talking for like 3 hours. He can threaten the outside. He's got counter. He's got a spin. And he's very unpredictable with it. Like I said, all arms and legs, real good with his hands. And when you're getting in the fourth round, you're either getting yourself an edge rusher who doesn't have pass rush up, or an edge setter who doesn't have pass rush upside, or you're getting yourself a sub rusher. Austin Booker would be in the sub rusher category. Tall, thin, not going to give you a good set edge, but you put him in on third and whatever, and don't worry about running. He's got a pretty good diverse skill set that I think that he can tighten up, but he's got a good idea of how to rush. So Austin Booker out of Kansas is my positional favorite, and someone that before today I would have been happy taking him maybe in the third roundish. So yeah, he's a very good player.
Excellent. One more question on the edge before we move on to the final position group. Stick and pick at 30. Latu, edge rush, outside linebacker, Latu, Kingsley, or Keon Coleman. Those are your three choices. Who are you taking?
For me, it's Latu all day if his medicals are good. He's just the best player out of those three by far. You say sure. Kingsley, Suamati, and Coleman? Yeah. I mean, to me, it's just like, do you want a right tackle or do you want the best player, somebody that could be I think Latu projects into a double-digit sack guy. And that's hard to say. Yeah, like I don't take that lightly.
He's already maxed out, but he's already at a Pro Bowl level.
Right.
Yeah. Yuri?
Do I have to pick?
You have to.
Do I have to go against my own formula?
Stick and pick.
Come
on, I'm going to put the screws to you. I'm going to put you under the heated lamp.
Yeah, I know. It's just the medical question with Latu is scary because it is a big concern. I think I have Latu in the top 15. I have Sumatra and Sumataya and at number 30. So I'm not doing it. All
right, fine.
I'm taking Sumataya. I don't care. I'm taking Sumataya.
Fair enough,
bro. The Pro Bowler for a starting tackle.
Fair enough, brother. We're moving on to safety, which I think is a very underrated need. I mean, first of all, you're too deep. Ardarius is a slot. He's not a safety. You do not want a 5'8", 175-pound guy patrolling your back end with guys Jamar Chase barreling downhill at him. He's not a safety. And what you do want is Kyle Hamilton playing big nickel. You lose in Clowney, who funneled a lot of sacks right into Matabike. You don't want to also lose that ability for Kyle Hamilton to be coming off the edge. All that said, I'd be okay. I don't know. I'm kind of a defensive back savant, I guess. I'd be okay with the safety probably earlier than most. How early would you be okay with taking a safety, and who would it be?
I'm good as of the third round. I would take one that early because if I'm repeating myself, I apologize. But being able to allow Kyle to be Kyle is a main goal to me. So, you have Millette that can play nickel while Kyle's at strong safety. Well, you need a strong safety to be able to move Kyle around to nickel. So especially, I think this is an opportunity for us to upgrade the position somewhat. Geno Stone is an excellent, I think, ball player, and he's a free safety. Him playing a strong safety and covering Njoku did not work out well. Him trying to tackle guys did not work out well. You need a more physical player. So as of the third round, Yuri, I don't know about you, third, fourth round, to me, if we take a safety and then take a corner, because there are a ton of corners, but there's one safety that sticks out, like Garnett's guy, Jaden Hicks, my positional favorite. I watched him play against Odunze and McMillan, and who else is Washington's? Jalen Polk. And Hicks was the best player on the field. It was just amazing. So I love Jaden Hicks. But yeah, if we look at these corners, Yuri, and be like, look, man, we don't see a lot of difference here between we're picking at 90, whatever, and we got another pick at 113. One of these 5 corners is going to be available, but Jaden Hicks is there. Go ahead and take that safety in the third round and take your corner 20 picks later. I'll be cool with that.
Yeah, I'm with that. I'm on the same wavelength. I think Hicks can actually do a lot of what Hamilton does, and he lets you, to your point, let Hamilton be Hamilton. You just think of one, the position versatility with him, and two, the like kind of like Hamilton as well. He had the thing behind Hamilton during the draft was like there was a question about range, and I feel like Hicks has a lot of suddenness to his range as well, being able to deploy his length, because he is a 6'2" safety. He's not like one of these 6 foot, 5'11" guys. So I really like his skill set. And then one other name I would toss out there is Malik Mustafa out of Wake Forest. Absolute piss missile in the run game. Probably the most physical safety. I also last time on Hicks, I think I have him at like number 34 in the class in terms of overall player. So I'm probably higher on a lot more than others with him. But Malik Mustafa out of Wake Forest in the run game, very savvy football player. Really will sometimes uncautiously throw his body into the wind to make a tackle, to lay out and make a play. And he's also, if I'm not mistaken, he's played a lot of snaps at free safety as well. So he can kind of be that split safety role. I think probably as his skill set projects, he probably wouldn't playing as a strong, but I don't think that he can't play free as well, because I do like his long speed. I do think he can recover well.
Really? Okay, so yeah. Voss, this is cool because I get a chance to disagree, and I know people like watching that. I think Mustafa is an excellent ball player, but I question whether he's an NFL athlete, period. Like, I think the reason he didn't run at the combine is he might be in a 4.65 type guy.
I think you get away with a little bit of a slower safety. Not a corner, definitely not a corner, but a safety you may be able to. I don't have a strong opinion on any of these guys, but I will say that you guys should take a little look at a sleeper from DBU by the name of Akeem Dent, who did not get an invite to the combine, but should have. He missed part of the year because he was injured, and if they made the playoffs, which they should have, I think he would have been there. Former 5-star, really grew into the position, really good range, can come up and hit. And I think that's a really good point, Jason, because we do this other podcast with Ken every week, Friday Morning GM, where we've been talking about, well, we kind of want another free safety, and then you can get 2 free safeties on the back end, and then you bring Kyle down, and your coverage is superb. But that's a very good point on Geno. He was much better filling the run 2 years ago than he was last year. A lot of missed tackles second half of last year. So that's a valid point that I didn't quite consider. So if that wraps us on safety, I have a closing question that I'd like both of you to answer, unless you have anything else on safeties.
No, I just want to say G just brought somebody up that caught my eye, James Williams out of Miami. Now, Garnett is a Miami guy, so
yeah, he is.
So, but I'm going to back him up on this one. James Williams, I believe, is 6'4", and they moved him around. Seemed like Garnett maybe
he's a will. He's a will.
If you could, I think he played like a star type position at Miami. Like they moved him around a ton. So I liked what I saw out of him as far as being a natural athlete. Not fast, but he's got that athletic body control at 6'4". I think you could play him as Ken likes to say, at the dime backer. He can play a little bit of strong safety for you, split safety and that kind of thing, and be a versatile piece. But James Williams might be a guy that teams look at and be like, well, he's not really a linebacker. Well, he's not really a safety. We'll just pick somebody else. And then, hey, it comes 6th round and you got yourself a core special teams player that could play a piece in zone. So I will go to bat for James Williams as far as, man, I could see him fitting in on the Ravens, that big, tall guy you put on the second level.
Yeah, good stuff. Good stuff. All right, let's wrap with this. If you're ready, fill in the blank. We're going to go to Yori first. The 2024 draft will be a success for the Baltimore Ravens if fill in the blank.
They select offensive players 3 out of the first 4 picks.
Okay. Jason.
I would say if the first round pick is an offensive lineman. And I guess I could caveat that by, like, if they trade back and then somehow have 2 picks within 35 to 45 and the 45 ends up being the offensive lineman, then I'm cool with that too. I'm saying
O-line or else.
O-line or else, bro. Like, we need a succession plan for Ronnie Stanley. Guys don't just walk right in. You're in a unique position that a starting offensive lineman will be available at 30. Like, take one, man. If you got to move him to guard and it doesn't work out, that's pretty good for pick 30 as well, like Ben Grubbs.
Well said. Well said. And I will say the 2024 draft will be a success for the Baltimore Ravens if they draft premium positions in the top 100. Full stop. You ready?
I'm trying to think. I can add more.
It's the year for it, Voss. It's the year for us. That's what we need, brother.
Well, that's what happens when you invest in devalue positions for 3 years running, and then you got to get some primos eventually, right? Or else you're just at a disadvantage in the last after the 2-minute warning because the other teams have playmakers at those positions, and you don't. So
you got to draft them or pay them, buddy. You got to draft them or pay them. So it's time to start drafting them for sure. And as I said, the only caveat to that, Voss, I would say, look at that pick 93. If there's a player at another position, non-premium, that blows you away, I would say take them and have faith in this depth of this corner class. If that's or maybe receiver, it ends up being that you take at 113. You haven't picked one, but yeah.
I mean, I hope they can get it done like they did last year. I'm just not sure. Former number 1 overall picks and a guy, long tenured corners like Darby and Clowney are just sitting there available every August, but it's not every August. It's not. But anyway, we're gonna make the best of it, and they got a puncher's chance. I think it's just a really, really big draft in the trajectory of this franchise. It's kind of a crossroads.
Every draft has been like that. It feels like.
Yeah, but this one's more because now they kind of box themselves into they need offensive tackle, corner, wide receiver, and outside. There's like the 4 of the 5 premium positions, and they literally need those exact players. So we'll see how it goes. But I'm cautiously optimistic. I am.
I'll say, I guess to add on to my point about offense being prioritized in the first couple selections. I feel like more times often than not, even though Clowney and Darby aren't really the expected guys to be available in August, I do think more times often than not, defenders are usually available after May, between May and August, than starting offensive caliber, offensive linemen and receivers. I feel like that's a very safe trend because even last year they signed Rocky Sin after the comic deadline, and I feel like right now, looking at the free agent market, there's offensive line market's dry. Receiver market's also dry. Maybe 1 or 2 names in the receiver market you like, but I feel like there's plenty of corners and edge rushers available that will probably be available in June. So I really am. I'm hell bent, man. I'm hell bent. I don't know how many. I can't put a specific number to it, but I think out of the top 62 players, I would say over 50% well over 50% on offensive players.
Yeah.
So
Oh yeah.
that's
Did
just,
you hear Daniel Jeremiah did the and Bucky do the? I listened to their pod, and they did a offense only draft and then a defense only draft, and by about pick 15 on the defense only draft, they were in the like third and fourth rounders. It is an offensive draft.
It is.
And offense. Guess what? Offense wins in the playoffs. So I'm here for it.
Well, Voss, you know I don't. I bump heads with you on some of the film. I think you're a hardliner. Well, you're known for it, so I guess I'm not alone. But bro, it's an offensive draft. We need offense. It's an offensive draft. We need tackles. It's a tackle-laden draft, or like almost historic. We need wide receivers. We can find them late. We need corners. We can find them throughout the first 3 rounds. Like it should line up perfectly for us.
Mhm.
And that's what makes me so nervous about this draft is that they're just going to go and be like, no, we believe in Faalele. And Voorhees is going to be healthy for the first time since 2020. And Ben
I
Cleveland's,
don't think so.
Ben Cleveland's going to earn a 3rd contract here. And we're just going to roll with 4 question marks on that O-line. From left tackle.
I highly doubt it.
I hope not, bro.
Jason.
They don't tell you. You don't get the Costa and Harbaugh both saying we want to. This is our priority, and then they don't do it. That doesn't happen. Last year they said we got to rebuild the wide receiver room. They both said that, and that's what they did. So I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt.
All right, you know what?
I really don't. They don't. They wouldn't both highlight. Like Ozzie used to say, we want a rangy free safety after Ed Reed left. He said that for about 6 years. They never got one. You know, it was like in the State of the Ravens press conference. But if Da Costa and Harbaugh are both in harness, it's a done deal. You make me feel
a little bit better about that because
I mean, just going by recent history, it's true. It really is.
And like DaCosta strikes me as either whatever he's saying is the absolute truth or the bold-faced opposite. You know what I mean? Like what he was talking about. We believe in our receivers or whatever that was a couple years ago. Like it's either 100%.
He's insulted. He said, "I'm insulted that people are questioning our receivers," and then he picked the receiver in the first round.
Right. But you're right, though. When Harbaugh and EDC say it almost seems like a corporate directive or something like that.
Yeah. Rest assured, the offensive line, they were top 3 offensive line by pretty much every grading service last year. And I know we're watching it. We're not watching all 32 teams, and we're like, hey, that's a little bit too much pressure this last game. The Lord didn't have ample time and space on 50% of his dropbacks or whatever. But compared to the rest of the league, they were still pretty good. So to have that confidence to say we're letting Zeitler walk, we're trading Moses for an upgrade of a 4th round pick and a 6th. I think they know what they're doing. I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt of the offensive line.
Going to need you on draft night to keep on. The blood pressure.
Right.
Yeah.
I got you, bro.
Yeah. I know. Look, they take a defensive player on draft night.
You're logging off.
No, I'm gonna get up from the chair. I'm just gonna get up from the chair, take a nice walk around, maybe go outside, smoke some crack.
Right.
I asked Yuri a couple weeks ago if Dallas Turner is on the board at 30, would you take him? And he said no. Offensive player. No matter what.
Let's not hurt ourselves. Actually, you know what?
I'm still rational about this.
If he was on the board at 30, then something's wrong with him. That would be my only. I'll be like, all right, there's a reason. Like there's a video of him out there doing something.
We got to get an AI. We got to tap into that AI, the artificial intelligence, make a fake video with a gas mask or something and just start manipulating the board. You know, why not?
I thought AI stood for artificial insemination. Is that what they're talking about? Man, every time I saw AI, I thought they were okay. All right, my fault. I didn't know that's what AI meant. I thought it was insemination. All right.
Well,
sorry, I shouldn't have said that on your show. I apologize. I'm getting a little too comfortable over here.
No, brother. No, we're a family oriented show. Anytime, you know, that's just a means to a larger family. So we're here for it.
That's right.
That's just the means to a larger family. So we're here for it. That's just the means to a larger family. So we're here for it. That's just the means to a larger family. So we're here for it. That's just the means to a larger family. So we're here for it. That's just the means to a larger family. So we're here for it. That's just the means to a larger family. So we're here for it. That's just the means to a larger family. So we're here for it. That's just the means to a larger family. So we're here for it. That's just the means to a larger family. So we're here for it. That's just the means to a larger family. So we're here for it. That's just the means to a larger family. So we're here for it. That's just the means to a larger family. So we're here for it. That's just the means to a larger family. So we're here for it. That's just the means to a larger family. So we're here for it. That's just the means to a larger family. So we're here for it. That's just the means to a larger family. So we're here for it. That's just the means to a larger family. So we're here for it. That's just the means to a larger fam
And with that
There,
note,
get us out of here.
we appreciate everybody for joining. Jason, appreciate you joining in.
We do.
Dave,
We do very
going
much.
back to back on the pod. So appreciate you being able to join us, give us some of your time. Garnett and Jim as well. Jim 420. Let me find his official name.
20 eyes. Jim 20
Jim 20 eyes. Sorry, Jim 420. My fault. Appreciate you guys for joining. And you most likely will see this trio on draft night.
Coming soon.
Indeed.
Yep. So we'll see you guys next time.
Thanks for tuning in. Thank you, Jason.
Thank you.